All right. Well, welcome to the Resonance Effect. Uh,
Yes.
I'm your host, Ian Gibbs. In this show, we really look at everything in life, whether it be relationships, money, um, your geopolitics,
Mm,
everything. We
mm,
look at it from a perspective of energy. That's really the purpose of this show, is to like show that everything in life, everything in the universe is energy. And when you look at things from a perspective of energy, not only do they make sense, but you begin to have power and control and influence reality. And so that's honestly the big point of building this show and having these conversations, is to
mm,
empower the audience, empower the listeners
hmm.
in ways that maybe they haven't considered,
Yeah,
or ways that actually like like motivate them and inspire them to take action in the world
I
and
love that.
change it.
Well, I like how you've explained how there's this energy that underlies everything, but then even mention stuff like geopolitical stuff or political stuff in general, every day to day stuff. How can we merge the two? The conscious conversation and people who are tuned into this kind of the energy of underlying life and stuff. How can we merge that with the day to day activities of how America runs and how things work and how our day to day lives look? How can we connect those dots and be connecting those dots in our lives and in our experiences in a more, you know, conscious way of seeing what's coming through in the synchronicities and all that sort of stuff?
Absolutely, and I personally think that when you start to actually look at all of these things from a perspective of energy, even though it sounds esoteric,
Right.
you kind of
Right.
are able to zoom out and get this like broader perspective, and that's where the realizations happen, and that's where the profound moments of insight actually like occur, because you aren't looking at it from like the lens of your own perspective.
Totally.
It's like this, like the universal consciousness. How does this fit in? What is the purpose of this pain? What is the purpose
Mm-hmm.
of these events? What is the purpose of my life?
Yeah. How are these parts unraveling in me and evolving me and pushing me into certain places of healing or exploration or of novelty, and how the situations we go through and seeing the situations we go through leading, it's like the I can see that, now I can see how it all unfolded. People who have gone through crazy experiences, whatever, they can look back and see, right? They look back over their life and they can see how all the dots connected. And how can we become closer to that perspective in the present moment and not have to be in the future to look back? How can we live in the day to day and see how there's everything's moving for us and how we're connected with the energy around us and how life is happening for and with us and how we're engaging with our thoughts and our minds and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that intention that you're bringing this to the conversation space.
Well, I mean, I think that kind of actually brings it full circle, because like, I mentioned geopolitics, and I don't necessarily, we don't need to get into all that. That's pretty loaded conversation in of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, like, I do see all this really dynamic political discussion happening
Right.
about civil rights, about the Constitution, about like the legitimacy of government. These are all like super valid like ideas and conversations to be having.
Yeah.
And like, that's
Well, and it's
pushing.
also, we're moving into the Aquarian age in the zodiacal structure. We're
So
moving
glad you brought
into
that up.
like this, the truth being revealed, and truth being what we're discovering, and the truth being what we're excited about versus tangibility. I can't remember what the zodiacal name of the last age we were in was, but it was a tangibility exploration. We were
Pisces.
exploring Pisces, yeah. We're exploring things of the world and the things that the world has to offer, success and feeling in a physical realm. And so, moving into that truth space, I think there's a lot more that's. And I've just noticed this since COVID. Like, there's been so much more that we have access to and seeing what's going on in the political sphere, and we're kind of being able to watch and have more awareness around those conversations. And so I think that they're definitely not places that you want to live in on your day to day, because it is heavy and it's like a big load of questions. But I think some of those conversations are important to look at and reflect on, and to think about stuff in that context as to like where we're moving and where the powers that be are trying to move us and how we can be involved with that.
Well, I think it's very relevant that you brought up astrology, because astrology is kind of that like energetic perspective on the
Mm-hmm.
world, and it's just one way of interpreting, the information that like the universe is expressing. But
Right.
like it is interesting how well all these archetypes like align. And like, have you ever heard of Kai Pacha? Do
I
you know
have
who Kai
not.
Pacha? He's an astrologer. He's like an
Wow.
OG YouTube fucking
I'll have
astrologer.
to check that out.
Yeah,
I love the
he posts every
Kaipacha.
week. Yeah, he lives in Costa Rica. I have some friends who they host this festival in New Mexico. Oh, what's the name of it? Oh my god. Oh my god. Vision Quest Brewery like sponsors it. Why am I? Oh, they're gonna kill me if they see this, and I can't remember the name of their festival.
It'll come to you. It'll come to you.
Uh,
Where is it
anyway,
at? Where's the location?
it was in New Mexico, and then I think it actually moved to South Colorado.
Okay, nice.
Anyway, they had Kai Pacha do a workshop at
Oh, that's
the
amazing.
festival. It's like Vision Roots. Oh, I can't remember it, but Kai
It'll
Pacha.
come to
So
us. Put it
anyway,
on the screen.
they kind of turned me on to
Put the
Kai.
text on.
Yeah, he's like an OG YouTuber. So
Right,
he's
right.
been posting
For
every
forever.
week for like, dude, like 15 years.
That's crazy.
He's been on YouTube for a minute, and
OG Zodiac reader.
yeah, and he like he didn't start his YouTube channel to make money or anything like back in the day.
He was just reading, expressing.
Yeah, and like he has this really interesting way of talking about the astrology where he doesn't so much talk about like all the technical. Because I don't really vibe with like Venus is conjunct this, and like they're all square each other, and like I'm like, dude, like
That's
that.
over my head.
It's just like it's too
Yeah,
technical. Like
yeah.
and this is what I mean by like let's look at everything from energy, because it's like this zoomed out perspective. Okay, what's the archetype? What is the overarching themes, right? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
where you'll get more wisdom out of looking into things like
Right.
astrology. It's not like my horoscope says I'm going to fall in love next month. Obviously we know that shit's bullshit. But also too, when you look at it too technical of a
Yeah.
standpoint, like I just feel like you lose the like essence of what astrology is really about,
Sure.
which is like kind of just like it's thematic. It's more
Because the themes are what you're able to tell and understand the story through.
right.
The archetype, you can watch movies, you can watch stories, you can read stories, and you're reading about a character, and that character represents an archetype. And I'm just using stories as an example, but the same thing goes for the zodiacal structure. Like you're watching, and that character represents an archetype, and you can apply those stories and lessons that he's learning or they are learning to you in your life and you in your path. And in the same way with the zodiacal structure, it sounds like using those archetypal structures to take lessons and take hints and take signs as to how you are moving through that pathway in your own world, and what's transitioning and what's transpiring, and how you can be moving with that and flowing with that.
Dude, 100%. And that's such a like a good insight into like how to use that tool,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not get lost in it.
Right.
Right. Because like from the outside perspective, right, there's a lot of people in the spiritual community who are kind of lost in the sauce of that. And they can't relate like what these things mean to
Right.
normal people and how it affects them.
Yeah.
And so like they're like
Yeah.
it comes across as woo woo and quacky, but it's based in a lot of like ancient wisdom.
Truth.
And like, so where I was going with that is that actually Kai Pacha was saying many years ago when
Love
I
that you
first
brought it
started,
back.
yeah, when I first started listening to it, to him, he was saying that the age of Aquarius does not officially begin until Pluto goes into Aquarius, which just happened. I don't know exactly when. Like, don't roast me on like. There's like a bunch of astrologers out there who are gonna know like the
Shout out to
exact
y'all.
date. Yeah, but that's not me. But like, I know that Pluto is in Aquarius right now.
Right.
Like it's officially in.
Yeah.
And so I love that you brought up that notion, because I think that like the way I see it is the hallmark of the Aquarian age is for all of the structures to collapse,
Mhm.
to crumble. Like that's the Aquarian age, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like like the overall archetype that I see in Aquarius is like this focus on community
Mm-hmm.
and like self sovereignty, like on the individual sovereignty within the community.
Right.
So it's like leadership, that we're all our own leaders, but we're also all followers within that same movement.
Totally.
And the
We're all
Aquarian age,
it's like the mycelium network.
right?
Like the mushrooms are all, they're individual mushrooms, but they're all connected underneath and through the forest. The forest infrastructure is all connected, and it is working with one another and it's interacting with one another. Versus just being a separate individual, which is very much where we're at right now in our timeline as like a human species. We've gotten so individualized in a lot of ways, and how do we reintegrate that kind of interconnectivity in the connection network into that space? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just kind of add on to that.
No, I mean, because I think you bring up an interesting point here with like bringing up how we've kind of been individualized.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were kind of talking about that before we started the show, with how technology has kind of enabled the lone wolf,
Right.
and but also simultaneously, because of technology, the lone wolf has access to like infinite communities. Like, I don't know, could you bring that like idea all the way through for me and tie it back to what you're just saying about
I think I
astrology?
I think where it's like that part I'm trying to think of a good analogy. We're in the middle of a breakdown. It's like when you're sore after you've worked out. We're in this place where we're expanding our capacity to connect in such a broad way right now, and it's happened in what, 20, maybe 25 years with the internet. Like, it's still so baby. That's so crazy how young that is. The internet is so new still, but that's an expansion of like how we're connecting as a human species. And we are both the most connected we've ever been, and also we haven't figured out how to integrate the fact that we need, um, that we're branded as individuals and separate online, and there's kind of this conflicting energy of like, well, I want to get the client, or I want to get the people to show up to my event, or blah blah blah, or I want people to look at me, I want people to follow me, I want people to like my stuff, right? Like, there's this kind of me. You're really able to, in a different way than you have been before. It's like Narcissus in the mirror. We're just looking at ourselves and able to look at ourselves in a different way as a species right now. And that's just an observation. I'm not judging that or whatever. It's just part of where we're at right now. And so I feel like there's both an extreme ability to connect even more now, because, like, I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for the internet. I wouldn't know most of the people
Sure.
that I know if it wasn't for the internet. And I'm so thankful for these connections, because we resonate at a level that I appreciate, versus like maybe people from my past or a different kind of timeline of my life. We couldn't connect because I was going through a different evolution process and they were going through a different evolution process. So it's
Yeah.
like the internet has like connected me to a more connected version of a friend.
Mm.
And so, like, that's an amazing aspect of it that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for the digital sphere of technology. While also, you and I haven't seen each other for a good little bit of time, right? We're also in these completely separate worlds, completely separate environments, and completely separate phases of life. We're definitely on similar tracks in a lot of ways, but we're also very in different tracks in other ways, right? So there's also this aspect of like us in a lone wolf timeline that is separate. Like, I can't really
Right.
relate and be involved in the same things you're doing all the time, but would it make sense financially for me and vice versa for you, right? We can cross pollinate and be in these places and
Like right
share,
now.
like right now, exactly, and
Yeah, yeah.
reconnect in that depth and that connection of the process that we're both in is what resonates with us and brings us together, which what we love. We love hanging out with each other. We're like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is the vibe. But there also is this like honoring of the fact, like, and also now I'm going to go and be in my process and be in the things that I need to clear myself to come into more balance, to come into more harmony in my own world, quote unquote. I'm going to back into my lone wolf kind of timeline. Not, and then that's not to say that there's not people in our lives that we're not, we're not just alone when we're not together, you and I. But every relationship is like that. in every environment. I feel like in every person, the closer relationships you have, like a partner, right? Obviously, you guys are connected and you're together, right? In anybody's life, really close friends who are, you just sunk up and you're just like doing the same thing, or work environments, blah 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 blah. But it's still the same kind of concept with everything that we're exploring with, and this is just human, on a macro. This is totally just human and how we've been through all of time. But I think it's just exemplified right now through the internet, the fact that there's so much connection, and yet there's also, because of the information that we're receiving now, so many of us are going through expansions of consciousness, because there's too much coming at us, and a lot of our spirits are starting to be like, I can't handle it anymore. I'm going to go to a different dimensional space in my being, because I don't know how to deal with the mental chatter that's going on globally. Because that's what we like to live in. The West wants to live in the mental world, and that's what we breed it all over the place, is this mental chatter. And that mental chatter is basically overstimulating all of us. And a lot of people are just tuning into a different vibrational space and recognizing, oh, my body is a language that I need to be in relationship to. My heart, how do I integrate all these three things? And then all of a sudden you're on a spiritual path, and you're tuning into your higher self. So I think that the lone wolf era is part of what's happening right now, because there's so much happening in our minds. We're constantly being bombarded with information. It puts you into this internal meditative satsang. You're going to go to the mountaintop. Like in all of the archetypal stories, the spiritual being leaves his tribe and family and goes within, or goes to the mountaintop to sit with the teachers or the masters and to learn about himself. Now we just have that on our phones. So we could just be doing it in our own process and in our own ways and in our own lives, and be in that kind of work internally. And the closer you can get to community and the more community you can get is beautiful. But also, like, it's also beautiful to respect and honor the fact that, you're in that work, you're in that process. And that's a beautiful thing to be in.
Yeah,
That sounds like
man.
it wraps that up.
Yeah, no, I hear you bringing up a lot of things, like between like, using spirituality as an escape tool,
Mm-hmm.
like the overwhelm and overstimulation, and like, like kind of like asking like important questions about like how do I navigate this terrain while still like maintaining my consciousness, my
Right.
vibration. And like, I guess I'm curious, like, so I guess how do you use social media as like someone who I see, as a highly creative, like motivated, ambitious young man who like is hungry for change and simultaneously wanting to remain connected to community and spirit
Uh-huh.
without escaping, without
Right.
like without becoming a lone wolf.
Right.
How do you maintain all that balance? And I guess that's too many
I hear you. I
questions.
hear you.
How do you? I'll first ask, how do you maintain that balance within your own being, and then how do you use social media to sort of express that?
Mm-hmm. Um, it's some days are better than others. I mean, it's a learn a something I'm still learning how to do and learning how to navigate. I think the biggest thing for me right now is that I'm still navigating, what story am I telling, what am I expressing, what is being expressed, and that's kind of clearing up right now via me really dropping into the idea of Solarpunk. I've been loving this idea of integrating technology and nature. We can get into that a little bit more in a little bit. I've been selling solar panels this winter, so I've just been in that world and involved in that world, and I like the idea of that future. And I think it's an easy track to head down. So from a story perspective, I think I am landing in something that I believe in, that I resonate in, and now I can kind of like figure out what the scripts are and the stories that come out of that look like, and how it looks like in this sense of how I produce content, right?
Well,
So that's
okay, so maybe before you go too far down that road, what exactly is solar punk? Because I don't really like. I've heard you throw it around a bunch,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I've even asked you, and like I don't really fully understand. Like I've even seen it online.
Totally, yeah. Uh, Let me finish up. I think
Okay.
the balance part of it is the fact that I'm still navigating it and I don't know how to do
Oh,
it yet.
okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like I'm
Sorry.
still. No. You're
Gotcha.
totally good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's part of like for social media, for a relationship with social media, it's important to have a story that you know what your baseline story you're telling is, and then you can show up consistently in that in new creative ways.
Right.
That's kind of the idea of how you want to show up on in your social media platform and space. Um,
That's
and
a good
so
strategy. I'm gonna take that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
what's your baseline story that you're trying to tell? What are you
Right.
trying to express? And then you're just showing up in different creative ways to express that. And your creativity will just bleed into like how you're expressing that creatively. And so I think when you're not clear on what story you're telling, that's when the lone wolf era is important and needed almost, because you have to go into that solitude to find what your purpose is, what spirit has for you, what your higher self has for you. So I think that that's an important element of the process, is to be in that introspective space so that you can be understanding what gifts you have to bring to the table. What skills do you have? Um, what are your talents? What are your weaknesses? Blah, 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 blah. What is your path? And then you can like learn how to hone that out and express that. Um, and then once you find that story, and then you can kind of get your hands dirty and start to dive into some sort of expression that you're following, right? And I feel like both you and I are in a little bit of a similar place with that. Of like, okay, I got my hands wet a little bit, and I feel like I know kind of what direction I want to take it. Now I can feel like I can be in the process of talking online and creating content in a more consistent way. um, Solarpunk is a radical visioning of the future. Essentially, there's this rapid rise of technology right now.
Hmm.
AI is about to change the way everything happens. There's going to be jobs that are going to be replaced, and there's just going to be this shift in how we're showing up globally. And how are we keeping our feet in the dirt? Essentially is how I think about it. Technology is rising and it's coming and it's fast. And if we're not careful with it, it's a tool just like anything else. And no individual person is doing this. Technology is just happening. It's part of our evolution. It's our minds being way overstimulated. And we've just lived in our heads and we've forgotten about the rest of our system in a lot of ways. And so we're just focusing on what the mind can do. And the mind has created this technological behemoth in a lot of ways, this AI creature. It's amazing. It's a tool, just like I said, but it's big now. And if we don't actually take the time to integrate the rest of our system and integrate that technology into our system, aka into the natural way of how the earth is designed, it'll become something like a cyberpunk world where basically everything's Terminator-esque. Everything's technology. Everything, like the natural world dies and everything becomes a technological haven. AKA think about like New York City. If we just continue to go down the technological rabbit hole, that just spreads out, right? And really people go and live in cities, and then kind of the outcasts and the renegades or whatever will go out and be outside of the city, because really the city is the only place that is operational. Outside that, plant life's dead. Animal life is like really sparse and sparse. That's where it could go if technology continues to just take over, and climate change, climate impacts the planet, and things move more on that trajectory of things dying and that kind of
Can't
thing.
grow food in the soil. It becomes acidic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And
I mean, that's happening.
it's happening.
That's,
This is not like a
yeah.
hyperbole. This is not fiction. This is a real life thing, in the sense of like, and whether or not you believe in climate change is regardless.
Right.
It's our responsibility with the technology that's growing is how do we use it in an intentional way, aka Solarpunk, where all of the climate issues can be solved with technology.
Right.
On top, the technology can either take over and be a tool that swallows us whole, or it can be a technology that we can learn how to integrate, use, and integrate with the natural law of the world. Right. So building and this can go in a million different directions, and there's a lot of you can go look up and search stories and sci-fi kind of esque futurism of
Yeah.
solar punk or afro punk.
Okay.
um, those kind of flying cars and cities that
So
have.
yeah, just for clarity, like would solar punk be something like a permaculture farm that is enabled by different types of technology, or like or would it be like would it be like a AI tech center that is like ran on clean energy?
It's both of those
It's
things.
okay.
It's all of them. So in the
Right.
sense of like, Solarpunk is already happening. It's already
Yeah.
alive. It's already a thing, right?
Okay.
So in the sense of like, I was driving out in the flatlands, a couple weeks ago, and I saw this massive parking lot,
Yeah.
and and it was all shaded,
Yeah.
and they basically turned this whole parking lot into a solar farm. And I was
Right.
like, that's awesome. You're keeping the shade on the cars. You're using this dead space, which is all for the vehicles,
100%.
as energy, harvesting.
Right.
That's amazing. That's solar punk, right? Same thing
Gotcha.
with hydropower, right? Using water to generate electricity and power and that kind of thing. What we don't have right now is our grid is still tied to coal and burning fuels, which is not regenerative and it's not helping the atmosphere. It's not conscious of how it's being used versus creating systems like if we change those grids to just solar farms. So instead of uh, a power generation system for a city that's all coal usage or whatever, it's
Yeah.
actually just this massive solar farm, right? So there's just a massive solar farm that powers all of Denver, quote
Gotcha.
unquote. Or houses that have solar panels on their homes, right? And I'm just in the solar world, so this is just what I'm thinking about a lot of the times these days, anyways. So, houses that power their power from the roof, right?
Right.
The grid goes down, well, you're good. You
Right.
got your power right there. You got a
Totally.
battery right there. You got that's half the battle in the sense of electricity and being able to operate and that kind of thing. And then that can feed into. Well, I guess I'm getting into a lot of the details.
It's fine.
It's
Let's
more
go. Let's
relationship.
zoom in.
Like totally.
Like we get.
And what I'm going to say
Yeah.
with it is like it's a relationship with your own sovereignty.
Yeah. Right.
Solarpunk is a relationship with your own sovereignty.
Okay.
How are you practically using the resources that you have? So in
Gotcha.
the sense of like when it rains, and it gets into political, social spheres as well because
Right.
there's
There's
like
laws against
there's
catching
laws of rate against that,
rainwater.
and you have to
Yeah.
think about that in the sense of
Right.
like in Colorado, you can only get 100. You can only have rainwater catching sources of 110 gallons
Right.
on property, and typically, well, legally, you have to get that water out of those barrels within 24 to 48 hours after you've caught it. You can't hold on to it,
Okay.
right? That's a really weird law. It came back from the early, I don't know, 50s and 60s due to, I haven't looked into it a whole lot, but it seemed like the natives and like water harvesting was like a big thing back then, became something that laws were created around.
So it's a form of oppression.
Form of oppression. And
Yeah.
that's the other idea. That's the punk aspect of the solar punk idea. It's like, no, fuck the
Gotcha.
system. I can do
Interesting.
this.
Oh,
I can grow
interesting.
my own food. I can make my own
Yeah.
composting system. I can harvest my
Oh,
own water.
cool. Right.
I can fucking have my
A
own power right
greenhouse
here.
is a
I
solar
can
punk.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of that solar punk. I
Okay.
can go to the thrift store, buy clothes, and refurbish them for my own style, my own creation. I don't have to go buy the brands that are big and corporate, right? Corporations and whatever is just part of how we've grown as an evolution. But if we're not careful, we'll end up in a place like a lot of us can feel where we head towards a cyberpunk, super locked down, kind of Hunger Game esque place where there's people in power who have all the big money. They run all the things. Vanguard, BlackRock, this whole idea is alive in the sense of like, if they run everything and you don't have any sovereignty over like how you're showing up, then all of a sudden, there's you don't have any chess pieces to move. You're a pawn being used.
Yeah.
And so we're in this massive shift right now.
Yeah.
Aquarian age, COVID happened, like you can feel it and you can look at these historical moments of like, whoa, things are changing.
Yeah.
And things feel like they're changing. And there's these conversations alive in the political sphere of like, we want change, we want to move into a certain direction. And Solarpunk is nice because there's no political angle. There's no left or right. It's like you become responsible.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
How are you thinking about how you're using your resources? How are you
Yeah.
thinking about how you're harvesting your energy? How are you thinking about how you're throwing your food out? Like I just finished this morning building a compost system for the house that I live in. So instead of throwing all this food that we have, Boulder is great because it has compost systems, which is awesome. Shout out to Boulder. More cities should do that. But, I also would love to compost for myself. Like I'd love to put that compost material back into my own garden in the springtime after it's fermented and created like the really nice soil over a year, and then it's less waste that's going out to the city or to whoever else needs to handle it. I've become responsible for how I'm utilizing my own waste. So yeah, Solarpunk isn't just it's not like a brand of like, oh, that's Nike.
Right,
They're not
right,
tandem. It's a way of being. It's a way of
right.
showing up, and
Yeah,
you see
yeah.
that kind of energy in a lot of places like festivals or in a lot of the conscious environments that we're in. And I'm passionate about it because I see so much division even in these spaces. There's
100%.
so much division even in the fact that like you and I are homies, and our communities are we're all think the same and are aware and all these sort of stuff. There's still so much division in how we're showing up and how we're doing it, and you're doing it differently. Oh, I lost my.
Oh, did it just turn off?
Yeah, I think I ran out of space. Yours is still going though, so it's great.
Do you want? Should we get you it? I mean, I have that SD card.
I think honestly it's fine
Yeah.
because I'll just rip it from your
Okay.
this the rest of the video. I'll just plug it in for the iPhone,
Okay.
and that's Solarpunk.
Cool. I fucking love it. I love it.
And then we don't have to stop the flow.
Yeah, yeah. No, because I like where this is going,
Yeah,
and like I don't know. it gives me right off the bag. I have a few ideas, and
totally.
like first of all, one of the first things you said was you were talking about like about the overstimulation of technology, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the like losing yourself in the escapism
Right.
of your ability to lose yourself in the technology and immerse yourself. I mean,
Literally.
like the virtual world is getting better every single day.
Yeah.
And
that's cyberpunk.
That's the kind of dystopian like thing I worry about. But I also think that I have crafted a solution to that because I've been posting about Rise and Align a lot on my Instagram recently. And so what Rise and Align is it's a framework, it's a system, it's a structured way to keep yourself like centered and in your heart. Like it's like, how does someone who is heart centered in leadership, like deeply empathetic and compassionate, but like how do I also show up in a way that's powerful,
right?
And like I said before, influence is reality,
right?
And so like Rise, they're Rise and Align are acronyms. So I built Rise because I was super depressed, dude. Like I was stuck,
probably due to a lot of the overstimulation
of the world. 100%. We'll get into that with this, but yeah, like I was depressed because I was forced into working a job that I didn't want to. Right. Manual labor, super hard. I was kind of forced into it, and I was feeling like a failure. I felt broken. I was literally going bankrupt the whole time for years, like on just like barely not going bankrupt. Like super stressful. I got debt collectors just calling me every single day. The freaking electric company shut off my electricity. Like it's happened a few times. It's super stressful. It's hard to deal with, dude. It's like, and it makes you question yourself. It makes you question your ability to do things and show up and provide for your family. It really like was a huge hit to my self-esteem, and it brought me into this place of just like hopelessness and despair, feeling like it wasn't going to end. And that's when I was like, I just realized I needed something to like pull me out of that. And like you
needed a system so that you could stay grounded in the fact that maybe things weren't going to change immediately in your life.
Exactly.
But you had a system and a way to stay rooted in yourself and not lose touch with the fact that like, no, I love myself. I love my life. I love like the energy that I hold. I'm not going to get lost in the things that are coming at me from the external world that are telling me that I'm this or that or that or this.
Right. And so like, oh shit, I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
The Rise and Align.
Well, so what
is it, a course you brought through?
It's honestly just like a free, like downloadable PDF for people to use. It's just like a little template that you can download and have. Because like I just want to give people something that can solve a problem right now for free. Like you don't have to invest anything into it except for a little bit of time and a little bit of your attention. And it's like yeah, like
It's a practice that you found, whatever it is. It's like it's a practice that
well,
you're using.
exactly, it's a process for transformation. And so what it is
Mm-hmm.
RISE is an acronym. It stands for realign, inspire, simplify, and empower.
I love that.
Right? So the realign, like find your true north, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is the intellectual part, right? The air
Right.
is like ruled by the element of air.
Mm.
Inspire is like feed your inspiration, feed your creativity, feed the things that light you up,
Right.
right? And like this is just
That's big.
a
Feed that.
structured way of pulling yourself out of the darkness, because like I'm really into affirmations, I'm really into manifestation, but like I got myself into a situation that like was so big and so monumental that like just like work like where the mindset stuff stopped working.
Right.
And like like that's what actually drove me into the depression. It was this feeling of like hopelessness, of
Yeah.
not being
There's no
able,
light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah, there's no ability to control it.
Right.
And so I needed like I felt like when I was shouting affirmations, I was just like screaming them into this empty void, you know.
Sure.
And like and I just needed something deeper. I needed something real to like pull myself out of the darkness, other than like forced positivity and
Hmm.
like trying to convince myself out of essentially trying to spiritually bypass
Right.
the
Right.
true feelings.
Right.
And so that's how Rise was created. It
Huh.
was like it was more, it's more than just affirmation. It's like, how am I being? How am I showing up?
Right.
And how can I generate momentum? And
Hmm.
that's how that's why I developed Rise, because I honestly, it wasn't even for anyone else.
You
I
say I
like
need something.
I was just like, dude, I need a process to like
Yeah.
actually like
Yeah, that isn't something of long, like that's not something of the emotional feel good of just like all these manifestation things and blah 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 blah. It like has its feet in the ground with you.
yes. And this is that's exactly kind of what brought me into this, is because of that grounding aspect,
Right.
right? Feeling.
Right.
And so that's where the align aspect comes in, is that's the customizable morning routine, right?
Mm.
Align is action, love, intention, grounding, nutrition,
Mm. I
nourish,
love that.
sorry. And so the grounding piece for me is actually really the most important part, because it kind of like we can kind of go full circle, because it kind of taps into to the essence of our purpose. The way I see it on earth as spiritual
Right.
beings is actually not in the ascension, not in the escape,
Right.
right? It's actually, if you look at Jesus's story, his ascension was earned through dissension. His
Mm-hmm.
ascension was earned through all this like service and influencing the world. And like
Groundedness that he was
he
involved in. Yep.
he was so grounded into his being that when he ascended, his body came with him.
Right.
Right. And so that's the level that he was working with.
Sure.
And honestly, the way I see Yeshua's work, now that I'm like more connected to it,
Mm.
is like he was working on an extremely radical level.
Very
Like
wild, dude.
because the way I compare it is like, okay, you and I, let's go down to Denver and go to Colfax,
Uh-huh.
and we'll go wash homeless people's feet.
Right.
That's
That
and
level that he was on.
that like feels to me super extreme. Like
Right.
I don't know if I'm actually willing to do that.
Sure.
And that's okay, right? I'm a human, I'm not
Right.
Jesus,
Right.
but that's the level that this guy was working on. And
Right.
I think
He
that
was super solar punk.
the whole point of this is to actually really show the importance of grounding,
Right.
because I am kind of rebelling against this idea of like finding spiritual ascension.
Yeah.
I don't think
I love that.
I'm like
Yep.
I used to be obsessed with it. There was a time in my life where I wanted nothing more than to like be, this lifetime I'm going to be enlightened. And
Uh-huh.
like I realized that like how much I was trying to escape reality with
Yeah.
that like
Well, and
ideology.
yeah, it's not actually practical, and it's not actually, it doesn't, not that that can't be a, you know, a desire and a focus and a striving towards like beautiful, but you know, how are you integrating and how are you bringing it back down, and how are you actually impacting and working with the life around you, um, and showing up in the world that you're actually in.
And see, that's
Yeah.
exactly why I built Rise and Align,
Yeah.
because Rise and Align is about that. It's like, it's for people who don't have all day to do a 3 hour routine. Because I see a lot of influencers are like, here's my, and I did this, right? When
Right.
I had time and money, I built this huge 3 hour routine with like breath work and journaling and ice baths and movement. And dude,
Right.
it was, I mean,
Which feels amazing and it's
it's
great.
amazing. I mean, I love doing a 3 hour
Yeah,
routine,
it's
but
great.
it's really not practical. And
Right.
at some point,
Especially if people are working 9 to 5 and they're working like restaurant or they work in whatever.
it becomes more of a burden than a
And
boost.
then you just start to be bitter about yourself. You're just like, oh, I haven't stuff into my thing. Now it's been a week. Now it's been a month. Now it's been 3 months. Oh, I guess whatever. Or, yeah, you're just
Yeah.
really beating up on yourself. Blah blah blah.
So Align is a morning routine that you can do in 5 minutes where you work
That's
on your
dope.
action is really like movement, but it's also like really loose in its structure. So like action could be like if you need to send an email that's really important, just go do that first thing.
Clear, clear,
Clear
clear, clear, clear the
clear
thing that is
mental
on your,
clutter.
yeah,
Clearing
clear mental
like
clutter.
action.
Right.
Action can be getting into your body, and on most days it should be physical exercise.
Yeah.
But
That's important though. If there's something that's blocking the movement, you have to go clear it. Yeah.
exactly, if it's that important, then honestly, just go do that.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it's like
You're fresh. You're feeling good.
that's where these morning routines need to have the flexibility to be actually powerful for people.
Mm-hmm.
And so love is prayer. Love is speaking with God, and it's asking for God. It's actually physically
Yeah.
speaking. It's prayer,
That's a
right?
really important thing. And I don't think that the spiritual communities and, have a, and I've struggled with this. Like, how do you relate to the idea of God after you've kind of tuned into a more integrated connection with him? And I think that that's a big aspect, that there's still, your higher power is still so much more ineffable, and it's still that like crazy out of this world experience of God. You
Right.
can't explain it, and that there should be still an asking and a humbling and like, hey, guide me, like how can I be in more harmony with myself?
It's for me, it's like acknowledging that yes, there is this higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually too, for me, like by invoking that power and speaking to it, it like allows it in my from my perspective to work for me. So I'm like
Yeah.
asking the universe, God, like it doesn't really matter. Like I don't really, dude, you can be
You're
Muslim,
just talking.
you could be Allah. It
Yeah.
could, like it doesn't matter. It could be Buddha.
Right.
It could be God, the universe,
However you
like
want to call it.
whoever you want to call it. It's just like you're like, hey, I am your humble servant. I am invoke the power of you
Yeah.
to influence and help me. And honestly, the more important part of love
Yeah.
is actually listening, is
Mm-hmm.
learning how to listen to what God is saying.
Wow. Yeah.
That's the real learning of
Bars.
love. And which brings me to intention, right?
Well, if you don't mind me interrupting for just
Yeah.
a second,
Yeah.
this is such a cool, like, because this is so solar punk in the sense of like how you're taking responsibility, right? It's
Right.
a responsibility thing that you're doing, and it's not, you're taking responsibility over the fact that you don't have 3 hours to do it. You're taking
Right.
responsibility over the fact that you
Yes.
actually don't even want to take 3 hours to do it. You got to go get to work and you just want to go do that, or you're taking responsibility of the fact that you haven't taken responsibility over parts of your life that you need to, and like in this, it's like that first action thing, go call that person or go send that email, whatever. Like, I'm loving it.
No, I love that you brought that up because that's exactly what it was. Is that like part of what made me so depressed about going to work my job was feeling like I was missing out, feeling
Yeah.
like I was I like this thing was kind of leaving me behind, and I
Yeah.
wasn't
Your
able.
spiritual
Yeah, like
relationship and connection.
I
Yeah.
was sacrificing my spiritual connection for money,
Right.
and it was killing me.
Right.
And so I was like,
Which, by the way, is the design of it, and that is what the idea of like the matrix actually is like there is a level of like, if you're not intentional while you're in that space, because I've felt the same thing,
right,
and you do get to a place where you're like, I feel like life is passing me by, and I think that's what a lot of people who aren't even spiritual experience. It's that
everyone.
everybody's experiencing that relationship to it, and so having a relationship to how you're keeping yourself conscious and in good relationship to what you're doing and how you're showing up, I think is important, like you're saying with this practice that you developed.
Well, you're absolutely right. That it is a tool of the quote unquote matrix or the system
Uh-huh.
powers that be. Because, yeah, like, and this is why I preach financial literacy and financial freedom as a form, as a tool of of spiritual sovereignty,
Yes.
right? Like you need to have
Solarpunk.
a level of control of your own personal
Yeah.
finances to actually be spiritual, because otherwise you're getting fucking
Yeah.
your energy extracted from you.
Yeah.
You're getting energy drained. And that's exactly what this brings me back to Align once again, because it was about finding a way to like shift my energy from the inside out,
Mm.
like quickly in 5 minutes, and filling my cup so that I could show up to work for a full 10-hour day, 8-hour day,
Yeah.
like feeling like, okay, I actually did something for myself. I'm connected. And
Yeah.
it just like, I don't know, like I said, it was just a way of pulling myself out of depression and
Right.
like fear and all these things. And it was just like really practical.
Yeah.
And that's when I started taking it seriously as like, maybe this is a framework that could help people.
Totally. I
Which
think it's
bring
super valuable. When I think that there's like these elements of the conversation are super important for the spiritual community to tap into.
right.
I think we need to be sharing less about our ayahuasca experiences and more about how we're budgeting. Like we
Yes.
need to be
Yeah.
doing less
Right.
about
That's an interesting way of putting it.
like less about the high the a lot the and I'm speaking to myself too because I've definitely been in this rabbit.
For
It's an
sure.
exhilarating experience to tap into those spaces 100%. And it takes a while, I think, to be able to come back down and recognize, oh, I'm still just chopping wood and carrying water. I've still just got to work the system, aka the matrix, in the way that it's set up to change it from the inside out. And I think that's a really valuable piece. And this is the stuff that we've been talking about with the men's work stuff. It's like, why does that feel so disconnected from the practical things that we all need?
Right.
Like we all need, just ways to, how do we regulate our emotions during our day to day, and how do we regulate our relationship to our work environments, and how are we like interacting with these pulls from all these different directions, our partners, our family, our work boss, whatever. How are we navigating these spaces, like um those practical conversations I think should be, and obviously we're evolving, the spiritual space is evolving, everybody's working through that, and we're trying to figure out where we're pointing our attention towards. um and I think that these kind of aspects of the conversation and what you're talking about, what you developed, is really valuable. And again, that's also what Solarpunk is to me. It's like Solarpunk is about revolutionary change from the inside out. How do
Yeah.
we work from where we're at,
Yeah.
and how do we begin to have responsibility with where we're at to then change it and have more awareness? Because the more we raise the awareness of where we're at, what's going on, the harder it is for people to create something like to put more power over us, quote unquote.
Well, this
I
is
want you to finish your thing.
no, it's interesting because you bring me to this whole new, like super nuanced idea that hold, which is like, I think that escaping the matrix is an illusion.
Right.
And it brings me back to what I was saying about Jesus, is like he wasn't trying to escape the matrix. They
He's
were,
present with all of it.
yeah, like he
Yeah.
exactly. And that's ultimately what allowed him to escape the
Yeah.
matrix, was
Well, and
in
I think it's so funny. I think the idea, like, so what you just said about the fact that you took this time to do the align practice in the morning,
right,
right?
right,
And it dropped you into yourself.
right,
What was coming up for me when you were saying that was the fact that like you were able to be present with your being because you've taken the time to be present with your being.
right.
And then the rest of the day you could sit in that, you could have a part of you could have a piece of yourself in that presence, versus in your head thinking, fuck, like I didn't do the thing for myself this morning. I'm like judging myself that I'm like wasting time here when I should be doing that there. Right? You're like
Dude,
you're not beating up on
it's like
yourself.
an easy way to make sure that that does not spiral.
Right.
It's like 5 minutes. It's like there's
Totally.
no excuse to not do it.
Totally. Well, I think it's that idea of like, how do you connect with, and this is maybe what Jesus was tapped into, and I think this is how I've slowly been learning how to actually re-engage with the matrix world. uh you know is you're connected to your present energy, you're connected to your breath, you're connected to those intentional practices with yourself. And however you might need to do that in the morning, it might take you 3 hours. You might have time to do the 3 hour thing. You might have 3 minutes to do it. You know what I mean? But how are you tuning into that and dropping into that place so that you can have that sense of resonance within yourself so that then you can go out into the world and show up in the ways you need to and engage the ways you need to. Because like I get into this place where like I won't do that for a second. I won't do that for like a week or something.
Right, right.
And then I feel, and then something will pop me off, and then I won't be able to. I won't be able to do anything external and talk to people or keep up with people for like a couple days or longer. You know, depending on
I know
what it
what you
is.
mean.
Where you
I do
just
that still. I mean,
totally. I mean, we all do. It's
yeah,
human,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
And
I'm
we're
just
all
like
still navigating it.
overstimulated. I just can't fucking deal with it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think, but it's like, again, we're human, and that's part of it. And
Yeah.
even Jesus was like, dude, you're going to be able to do way better things than I'm even doing. You know what I mean? If you really tap into this. That's not how he said it. He said it way more profoundly, but like that was the concept. We're all human, and like, we're so overstimulated. But having these conversations and having these dialogues, it helps it concrete itself just a little bit more,
Oh, dude,
just a little bit
totally.
more, and then your
Totally.
practice can be a little bit more grounded and integrated, and you can show up in a little bit more presence each day.
Well, it's funny.
That's what integration is.
Totally. And you know what's funny is that I've actually been using
Is this-
ChatGPT for this a little bit.
I want more of this.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, that ginger ale is good, huh?
Exactly. Like
Yeah, with the sparkling water, I know.
Yeah.
It's like it's better because it's not as sweet. It's like even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh shit.
You've been using ChatGPT for that?
Oh, I've been using ChatGPT just to like bounce ideas back and forth.
Right.
Like just to like be like, am I super far off on this? Or like, how can I like word this better?
Sure.
How can I communicate this better? It's actually really helped me become a better communicator because I've consulted it in that way.
Right.
You know, like I've got a 120-page book on energetics and how to apply it, but it's super dense and like fucking informational. Yeah. You know, it's not a practical tool for messaging for like short form to like get people like engaged with the brand.
Well, it's like that's a good thing to like read, and then integration process is like how do I take what's coming through for me on that?
But it's a great that's like come back to your point of Solarpunk. It's like a good way of using that tool for actually something really practical.
Totally.
That I'm not like my message is not computer generated, but
you're filtering it through yourself and it's coming through yourself. Yeah.
The actual messaging has been like essentially elevated from the use of the computer.
Right. Because like, you're just tweaking.
Because I could talk about this the fine tune, like that's even what I was saying in the beginning. I can talk about like the fine tuning, the science of energetics, which honestly, dude, no one cares about. Like it's like, how does it help me?
How do I use it?
And that's honestly been the perspective shift. It's like I've known that's needed to happen for a long time, and the AI programs have allowed me to like figure out the messaging that conveys that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And how do you convey it in like a short 90-second thing that you can throw up on Instagram?
Yeah.
Right. And so, like in breaking it down into this like cohesive ways that can come out in that way.
And so to finish,
that's been my. You go ahead.
Okay.
Finish.
I'm gonna finish this off because I think that it's actually big for the audience.
We're just hyping each other. It's
yeah. Well, the I in a line is for intention. Okay.
Right.
And here's the nuance with this one. Okay. The intention can also be thought of as affirmation and visualization. Right.
I hear it. Yeah.
But
what are you putting your energy towards?
Yeah. This is mental rehearsal.
Okay. This is
so like this is where I like this in the morning routine, because like when I was struggling in construction, I used the I in intention to actually help me. Because what I was doing is I was like visualizing and mentally rehearsing doing really like good tile work. Because like the day before I was like fucking it up real bad and like getting in all kinds of trouble, and then like the next day I was like, I'm gonna like mentally rehearse doing a great job today at work. And then I came in and like literally it was like so smooth, and I was like, whoa, this is like working. And so the nuance with intention, okay, is visualizing and mentally rehearsing inputs, actionable inputs. Because like I said, I was really obsessed with manifestation, and I still am, dude. I think that this is actually the real path to
that's actually how it works.
Is it's not visualizing outcomes. It's not visualizing I'm going to get $1 million today. It's like it's visualizing perfect execution on like the sales calls, on
Yes.
like laying the tile. That's what
On the matrix stuff.
that's what you need to actually affirm.
Yes.
That's the affirmation.
That's such a download right there.
Yes, because
it's not the big vision. It's not the big dream. You could be holding that for sure.
Yeah.
But those are the things that you're actually energetically tuning your body to be in harmony with.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where the I in align is there. It's very intentionally placed there because that's the mental cultivation. This is the mindset genius, part that law of attraction nails, which brings me to the G in grounding.
Right.
Okay. Now with align, action, love, intention, we've been cultivating all this like energetic, esoteric, intellectual energy, right? That
totally
right. Like we're speaking to God, we're visualizing perfect execution,
right?
And then, geez, time to ground it, bring it into your body.
Right
now, you're in. Now this process is meditation, but with a purpose to like actually embody the actionable, tangible, like things that you can act on that you are embodying now.
So and that's now, almost that's like almost the direction to the meditation, because I think meditation can feel a little bit too vague for a lot of people. It's like, well, what am I just emptying myself? It's like, no, you actually meditate into the experience of you doing the visualization that you're calling in.
And this is a guy, like a type of meditation that is activating a certain outcome or result, like.
But that's how to use meditation.
But it's one way to use meditation. Right. Yeah.
But in the sense, what I'm saying is like that's
because I don't want to like have people listen to this and think that, oh, that's how you meditate. Because like the true practice of meditation is so much deeper than this.
Sure.
But like this is a way of like actually like, okay, I can meditate every day for 1 minute and I can fucking do this.
Yes.
It's like something that people can just like do.
Yes.
It's not.
It's a practical way of using meditation. Yeah. It's not that's not how you use meditation. It's exactly how you use meditation.
And it's approachable for someone who's never meditated.
Right.
It's like,
it gives you like tangible,
oh, that's what this is doing for me. Right. They're like, oh, okay. Like, cause I've actually taught a lot of novices how to meditate, and they're always like, the feedback is always like, well, like sometimes I just like feel like nothing, and then I like my mind starts racing and all these things, and I'm like, that's the practice.
Right.
It's like it's hard for people to like, they think that they're not doing it right.
Right. It's like, well, that's just because you're not trained in the fact that you meditate.
Right.
And that's how it works.
Yeah. And it's like it's hard, but it's hard for people to get over that.
Yeah.
It's like it is.
In that difficulty, it's really great to be able to give them practical things to think about. So in the sense of like emptying the mind is a little bit difficult, especially these days with all the information that we get constantly. So if you're struggling with that, you can go into a visualization practice of something you desire and an energy you'd like to embody in a day-to-day experience, or in maybe, some way you want to show up in the world, and you can meditate on that. And that's a good way to activate your mind. I mean, you're still in this thought process, but you're focused on something instead of just being empty. This is just something I've learned in my own self. Like you can use visualizations to help lock in on something.
Yeah.
And then train your mind to be single-minded focused.
Right.
And then from that training, then you can drop it. And then you can go into emptiness in a little bit easier ways, because you've learned how to quiet the mind down a little bit easier.
So that's kind of where I built this. It's like a combination of all of them.
That's amazing.
Right? It's like you have the energetics
practices kind of integrated into an actual like physical way of showing up.
Right. Exactly.
What's the end for?
Nourish. And so that's, Sheila G.
Right.
I've been taking these elk antler velvet with liver and heart.
Elk antler velvet.
Like it's like the velvet from their antlers
embedded into a pill.
Yeah, like in a pill.
Okay, yeah.
It's nice.
And their liver and their heart.
Yeah, it's like got a bunch of
delicious,
like enzyme CoQ10.
Yeah, right. Like, that's nothing but healthiness there.
Yeah, it's like super good.
It's like nothing but deliciousness.
Yeah. So nourish is like, it's just feed your body what it needs to operate at its best. Smoothie, tea, whatever, dude. It can change every day.
Activate your body's digestion system, activate your body's physical form.
But it also could even be like nourish could be red light therapy. It
Right.
could be a shower,
Yeah. It could
you know? It
be.
could like,
Yeah.
and that's where I like it's
It could be a lot of stuff.
I want it to be like super like I don't know, personable. Like
Totally.
you make it your own, you know, it's like what you
Yeah.
need on that day.
Well, and that's another important aspect of how to translate spiritual practices. It's like, yo, like this is what works for me. Like use this framework and implement what works for you.
Nourish could be meditate.
Right. It could be
Nourish
go
could
into a
act,
deeper meditation.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And like sometimes too, like for me, you know, like meditation, right? Grounding is 20 minutes.
Right.
And the other ones are all 1 minute. I'm just like, boom, I did 5 push-ups. I did,
Right.
you know,
Did
I
a little activation.
spoke
Yep.
to God. Thank you.
Right.
Like I visualized, and now it's like
How
I'm gonna like literally sit in my body for 20 minutes now.
yeah.
And then other
And that's
days it's
nourishing.
like, yeah, you can just switch it,
How can people get
whatever.
access to this?
So yeah, through my website
Nice.
on in the shop,
Love that.
I have the free downloadable resources, and then there's also a 30-day I'm calling stress to strength reset.
Love that.
It's essentially a challenge where every
Right.
day you are building something, and it's built off of the rise principle.
Sure.
So the first week is realign, second week inspire, third week
Totally. Oh,
simplify,
I love that.
fourth week empower, and it all kind of builds into integrating the align morning routine daily
Love that.
with like a
Super
lot of
smart.
cool journal prompts. Like, dude, what comes with it that I'm super stoked on is this thing called the Zodiac Stress Audit. Okay, you can buy the Zodiac Stress Audit on the website for like $5. It's super cheap. I just can't give that one for free
Yeah, that one's got
because
value.
yeah, that like major value.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, so what it is like it's like looking at the houses of astrology, the 12 houses. Are you familiar with the 12
Mm-hmm.
houses of
Mm-hmm.
astrology? Yeah, so like, you know, they're all ruled by different planets, they're all ruled by different
And the
signs.
stress environments that are coming through those.
So like each of that different houses rule a different area of life.
I
So the
see.
first house rules like personal identity,
Right.
right? And then the second house is like creativity,
Sure.
right? And then like
And so
I
this
kind of forget
this
all the
this
houses.
$5 thing you've got on your website, what is the
Well, so what it does is it breaks down where you're most stressed in your life by looking at the different houses of astrology.
I see what you're saying.
So
So this
like
is you got your own personal houses in astrology, and so it can look at
so
in
it's looking at the archetype of the first house,
right.
right? The first house is around identity,
Oh,
ego,
I see. Yeah.
personal fire, personal will,
That's
right?
dope.
And then it's like so like what's your stress level in this area of your life?
Right.
Like are you having a hard time expressing yourself?
You
Right?
can find
Like
places to work on. You can find things to work on.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that's a very first house thing because it's like personal identity. It's like assert like how do you show up? How do you
Right.
assert yourself? How do you
Right.
like how do you speak? It like
How do you
and
hold boundaries?
yeah,
Yeah.
like if you're not feeling super confident in your life, like there might be stress in the first house.
Sure.
Right. And so like it breaks it down
That's
to
an awesome offering.
all the 12 different houses.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So like basically part of the 30-day challenge is like do the zodiac stress audit day one,
Right.
and then we kind of go from
Build
there.
off of that
And then we
because
can
that will
kind of
give you information.
exactly because then we can actually look at where you are holding stress in your life, and this all builds to my new course, Unbreakable Vitality.
Whoa.
Okay, so it's like integrating all this in an 8-week course. Super sick.
That's dope, dude. I love that you've been building these like offerings out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so people can go like in the link below to like look into this and explore this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's super dope. I think that this is like a super important part of the whole spiritual community and the spiritual process is how are we like giving people practical ways to look at these concepts and these ideas and how do you practically use it in your everyday life. Like I've got to go to Starbucks in 5 minutes. How do I utilize this
Right.
when I talk to the barista, or whatever? Like I think that's really important and a really important element that I think it's funny. I think that the spiritual awakening part of humanity and where we're in right now, and like since like there's a lot of people who have woken up, I think we're in the process of integrating how we talk about it.
Yes, 100%. That's like literally, it's all about like applying what you know.
Yeah.
Because like I've come to find out hard way that like knowledge is not power.
Right.
Only
Same.
applied knowledge is
Yes.
power. And like without the skills or confidence or structure to use without what you know,
Right.
like the best advice is useless.
Irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like and that's where like yes, like the application layer of wisdom is
Yeah.
actually like paramount to me these days in
Totally.
the way that I like show up, the way that I market, the way that I'm branding myself. So like it is really all about like, I mean, honestly, dude, part of my depression was fueled because I was only solving my own problems. I wasn't solving
Yeah.
anyone else's problems.
You weren't in service.
And I was expecting other people to solve my problems for me.
Yep.
And so like, yes, there's like this whole
Well, I think with the whole process of spiritual, sorry, finish it.
no, it's about autonomy. Like with the whole rise and align thing
Yeah.
is like having the autonomy and accountability and responsibility to like take action on the things that you can control.
Yeah.
And like we said,
how do you get
have
energy
influence.
moving? Because I think the other big thing that's happening right now globally is the fact that there's so much energy coming at us that a lot of people get into freeze responses. I know I get into this. I think, we all do in some sort of way, but some people more than others. And I think how do you give and integrate practices that'll keep you activated and moving, regardless of what's happening in the digital sphere of what's coming your way, however you absorb information and content, your flow is staying fluid and in harmony and in action. I think
So
that's a huge thing.
yeah. And honestly, it comes back to rise. Like realign and simplify.
Right.
Right? Because repurpose yourself to your true north.
Right.
Right? And then simplify, eliminate the distractions, focus on what
Totally.
moves the needle.
Totally.
Right? So like anything that doesn't serve true north,
right,
like eliminate.
Yeah.
And that's the simplification process. And I
Right,
don't
cut it out.
maybe we didn't get there in the thing, but me explain it. But
I think
yeah, that's how you keep like, okay, because here's my concern, right? Like what I just talked about, all these offerings, right?
Mhm.
There's like the Zodiac stress audit, there's the rise, there's a line. That can be a source of overwhelm in of itself. I've taken courses where like I was stressed out and overwhelmed, and then I get this course and I'm like overwhelmed by
Right.
the course. I'm like, holy shit, I have to spend all this time doing all this shit. And so like for me, what I found with Rise and Align is that it didn't take time. It actually created time for me because I was able to fill my cup with such little effort and input and time.
Sure.
Then I was like really effective.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really effective until I started implementing these ideologies.
Yeah.
Because
you built a container, you built a frame around how to handle the input that we're getting these days.
Right.
You build a frame and a frame that doesn't take an enormous amount of time. It's just a frame to get you into the right headspace, into the right way of showing up. And so that you could continue to be in your flow and continue to be in your creative process and passion and like strength, which I think is badass.
Right. And so like I think that the way that you stay in your flow is by simplifying, by eliminating the distractions.
Totally. Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, dude.
Typically when you get out of your flow, it's because you've added too much or you're doing, too much is going on.
Right. When you have diluted focus, you get diluted results.
Totally.
I
definitely feel that. Like that's been a big thing that I've been navigating the past 2 years. It's just like I feel like there's been so much that's opened up to me, and I haven't known what to point at yet. Which is totally fine. Like I don't have beef with myself on that. It's part. I'm in a winter phase of my life, and the spring is on the way, and the spring is coming. But it when you get into that place, you have to just kind of sit back and like you're not really trying to take action, because if you do try to take action, it's going to be too spread out and diluted, and it's not actually gonna have impact.
There's a really like fine line between balancing like taking action, right? The action that you need to take needs to be aligned. So you're not just turning your wheels. You're not putting out 110% effort
on something that's actually not practical or what you need.
Yeah. And this is where realign is the
Mm-hmm.
first step of rise,
Right.
because it's like, okay, figure out what's important. What does move the needle?
Right.
What are the
Right.
distractions? And then when you simplify, it's like, okay, that's the elimination process.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Cut
it's
back.
all about it's all about
Totally.
removing what isn't serving you
Right.
and replacing it with like high impact actions. Because like, although we are preaching action, it's not just about like blind action. I've also done that too, where it's like, I'm just like acting on every opportunity. And
You
that's how
get
you,
nothing
and then
done.
you get spread thin. And that's
Yep.
where like the realign and
Yeah.
simplification comes back in.
Yeah. And a
Yeah.
lot of these processes too is just like it's something you got to kind of at least for me, it's something I had to go through. It's something I had to go through these phases of like, oh, didn't have the awareness to know that that wasn't the right step for me to make. I think that's part of the human process. We're growing in our awareness the whole time. And you got to go through it and fail and blah, 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 blah to navigate and to get readjusted and all those sorts of things, which is like why you've created this and why you've, created this idea, like why I've like really dropped into like something that I want to focus on that's outside of me,
Yeah.
right? Like Solarpunk is not a me thing. It's something a story I can help cultivate and help share and help
Right.
amplify. It's not something that I've created or I am a part. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
totally an ideology, and I think that's like super, super needed. We need
But
we
I
need
think,
more
yeah.
unifying. We need more unifying concepts, not an obsession with ourselves and or an obsession with what we have to say and share.
Right.
We need more unifying. What we let's have an obsession about what we all can get behind.
Dude, I mean, that's been such a big shift where it's like where what I was saying before about like, I was kind of looking for other people to solve my problems.
Sure.
And like, this is kind of where it just all ties back into Jesus and grounding, where it's like, I don't know, I'm realizing that I'm actually a lot more like satisfied and fulfilled, and like, even in the way that I'm being seen, even in a selfish way,
You're
like
more satisfied being in service.
yeah,
Yeah.
by being in service. And it's like, right,
Right.
you hear what
Well,
I'm
but
saying
it's
with
funny.
that?
It's funny because like even this conversation is a service,
Right.
but it
But
feeds me.
right,
Right.
yes.
Like it's like
And that's the fine
I'm
line.
learning
That's the
too.
fine line.
Totally.
Like, our like, what, how much are you giving?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's because,
And I think that's a great thing with this is like we're coming together to do this. This isn't like,
right,
and obviously we have our own quote unquote brands because that's how the media world works. But really we're unified around concepts together in this,
right,
right? We are one spirit. Where two or more gathered, there I am.
right,
Jesus says, or the Father says, whatever. It's like, and it's like we're in that spirit energy that has connected us to a higher place. So we're getting served. We're receiving energy while also sharing ideas and downloads that other people can tap into and feel off and learn whatever, or glean from. Um, and like I think that's the part of the service aspect that's actually such a like service actually is an alignment process.
yeah,
Being in service is getting into that
yes.
higher place within yourself, which is weird. It's like it's not a selfish thing because you're in service. Like it's not about me, but it brings you into that higher elevation of how you're showing up as a being.
I mean, dude, this has been a huge lesson for me,
Sure,
because I came from a business world where it was very cutthroat and out to get your own. And,
sure,
it was like the business was self-serving.
totally.
And it's been a process for me to like unlearn that,
Yeah,
and to learn that actually, like, that you're right, that like service is power, right?
mm-hmm.
And it's taken me a lot of looking at
Which is
Jesus,
so like meta.
right? And it's like the ascension process is in the descension process.
Yes,
It's escaping the matrix is by being in the
deeper in it.
matrix.
Yep.
It's like it's kind of this oxymoronic, paradoxical
When you let
view.
go, you got it.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
it's only after you've lost everything that you're free to do anything.
Right.
Chuck
Right.
Palahniuk.
Which is like it's I don't know, it's those you hear those concepts, but I feel like I'm just now actually understanding what that means.
Dude, you know what's funny about like the reason why I started making content is like, man, I saw these girls who were like life coaches in Boulder, and these chicks were making like $4 million a year,
Right.
like life coaching, and I was like, man, I got way more business skills than these
Right.
girls. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, and so, but like, see, I didn't actually understand what the artistry of making content was at the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's like messaging and like communication and
Right.
like all these
Right.
like skills that I didn't have.
When did you get into
And
service? How do you tap into the channel of service for other people in a way that
well, they would always talk about and it would like they would talk about it in this kind of cheesy way, to be honest. Like I
the
would be
serve?
like, yeah, like it's like a
Oh,
way
just in
that
general.
it would
Yeah.
resonate, but it would resonate, and I'd be like, that's kind of corny. Like it's just
Right.
like, and it does sound kind of corny. It's
Yeah.
like being of service. It's like it's just like thrown around, but the depth of it when
Yeah.
it finally lands and it finally clicks and you finally understand
It's such a profound teaching.
it is, and that's really okay. This is actually why I believe that I did not like my business plan to run this as a retreat and Airbnb, why all of that, my real estate business failed and I went into bankruptcy, is because I needed to integrate this lesson.
Yeah.
And the lesson is
Same, actually.
it's I could quote what's his name? Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, right? He who does more than he's paid for is bound to be paid for more than he does. That, and it's literally this quote. It's this whole chapter about service, and it's about actually creating excellence. It's about being excellent in every way of life, no matter how you're being compensated.
He's like, you guys have been talking for so long.
All right, he wants to co-star. Co-star.
Hi, buddy.
All right, buddy. We're gonna wrap this up soon. Okay, I promise. Okay. Yeah, you're a good boy. Here, you can co-star. Co-star. Come on, buddy.
Rest up.
So, yeah, the quote is, he who does more than he's paid for is bound to be paid for more than he does. And it's all about creating excellence, and it's all about like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
And it's like I understood that concept. You know, I read Napoleon Hill fucking like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
it's so
the
crazy.
lesson was never fully understood and integrated until like I had this experience.
Right.
And now it's like understood of like what the true depth of what that means. And it's not being corny. It's like
it's got some real profundity to it.
It's actually being really grounded.
Yeah.
It's being grounded in a way that influences reality, that helps people, that changes their lives and impacts them in a way that makes them want to change the world. And it's like the ripple effect of this like sphere of influence that is like positively influencing everything else.
Right.
And so, yeah, dude, I've had a fucking great time talking to you today.
Dude, this has been awesome.
Where can people find you?
My links will be down below on my channel. Well, I'll send you my links for both of them.
Yeah, but go ahead. And
YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel. I'm gonna start posting some more stuff too soon, and then my Instagram just changed to Astral Jack. And mine will be the first one that pops up. Yeah, and that's the best place to find me right now. Other than that, and I guess I'm the Solarpunk podcast. So if you listen to this on Ian's side of things, the Solarpunk podcast is linked below. Just digging into that conversation, digging into those ideas, digging into different people who have more information on the ecology of where things are at, where things are moving politically, the social aspects and the social elements. Just a big proponent of that conversation being more alive and more relevant. We need a revolution, and I think that'd be the smoothest and most peaceful one we could find. So, yeah, I'm excited. Where can people find you? How can people tap in?
Yeah, I'm Align IG on all channels: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube is Align IG 123. Oh, we got another co-star coming in here.
The fam's coming out. They're like, yep.
Yeah, got more podcasts and webinar episodes coming onto the channel soon.
Check his website out.
Check the website out. Go to the shop. In the shop, you'll find a bunch of free resources like the Rise and Align guidebooks, the Momentum Builder guidebook, and
Yes, sir. Yes,
you
sir.
can find this 30-day stress to strength reset, as well as the Zodiac stress audit, as well as my whole line of medicinal spagyric tinctures
Those are
at
fire.
alignwithiangibbs.com in the shop. Go check it out. Check out the other channels, content.
Comment below, share it with your friends, let other people know. How are you guys tapping into these kind of conversations? Who are you finding that's really, yeah, actually feeding value into your system, and feeding grounded, practical advice into your process and into your spiritual path. And yeah, we'll chat with you guys in the next one.
Let us know too, like what you didn't like what you hated, what
Yeah,
triggered
honest
you.
feedback.
Yeah,
What
if
could we have done more of? What less of?
yeah, did you like the conversational, casual, uh, framework or style? What can we improve on? Like you said, what did you like? I don't know. Share.
Comment below. Let us know
Yeah,
what's coming up for you.
yeah.
Yeah, comments can be all sorts of things.
Well, cool, man. It's been a blast having you. Thank you for coming
Awesome
up.
to be here.
It's good to show you
Yeah, the
the
space is amazing.
retreat and what we got going on here. We're gonna
I
build
love
that
it.
patio soon, so
That'll be dope.
yeah, we'll have some cool little sauna, cold plunging events
Yeah,
here and
I'd love to come
whatever.
out and help get my hands dirty with that as well.
Well, dude, that's why I consulted you because I know you're a landscaper. So
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
that you could have a really interesting
totally.
input on what we can do out there.
I know, and I love the
Yeah.
design that you're working on for it. So
I'll show you the ideas for the zodiac
I think you
calendar.
sent me a couple of those
Did I?
photos. They look
Okay.
awesome. All right,
Yeah.
guys.
Well, anyway,
We'll see you in the
have a
next
good
one.
one.